gem bit. The next time you want to describe someone using a gemstone, be creative. Don't use a diamond or a ruby. Use an opal. The opulent songs of her voice, with its rich and captivating tones, mesmerize the audience. And if you add that little French accent, it gives it even more panache. Voila. Discover the value of your story.
Increase. So this award lets me know that
you're here. Good morning. Bonjour. Comment ça va? Et toi? Ça va très bien. Je suis heureux. Hola, ni hao, bienvenue, wanyin, bienvenidos, bienvenita, benvenuta, namaste, and welcome. Welcome to an exciting episode of Gem Hunter Stories. My name is Barry B. Mixon, and I am a gemmological storyteller. And each and every week, I have the honor and privilege of coming into your home and taking you on an adventure, to hear stories you've never heard before, to take you to places you've never maybe seen before. Each week, I take the art, science, history, and magic of gemstones, precious metals, and fine jewelry, and put it all together into a story. What I've discovered over the years that I've been doing this is that many of the same attributes, many of the same characteristics and the traits that we highly value in gemstones can be found in people, can be found in you. So what I do is take those gem stories and use them as a template, as an inception point, as a bridge, to help people, to empower people, to remind people to take the time to discover the value of their own stories, of who they are, of how they resonate with their community, and how they interact with the light. I am so excited about today because today, at least this month, is the 3rd anniversary of Gem Hunter Stories. And what I want to say to each and every one of you who've been following this show, who subscribe to this channel, who watch it religiously, you know who you are. Thank you. This has been a magnificent journey for me, not just to bring you this information, but just how to put it together in a story. It's really, the adventure really starts with me. The excitement that you hear, the passion that you hear is because every week I sit there and go, oh my God, what are we going to do this week? As my kids that I teach say, Mr. Mixon, Professor Barry, what are we going to do today? And that's how I feel every time I do this show. So thank you for subscribing. Thank you for being here today. Yes, I'm still in my home in France, in Tele, France. So I'll be here for a little bit longer, and welcome. So let's get started. Each week, I say to you all the time that nothing has value without a story. So I thought about it, and in all fairness, in order to really start this new year, the 3rd year of Gem Hunter Story, I wanted to tell you I wanted to tell you my story. I wanted to tell you how this thing just happens because every time I think about it, it's just really amazing. This story started literally 3 years. In fact, as I always say, once I tell my story, that's how you will understand the value of what this means to me. So this adventure started November 2020. November 2020. Earlier on, actually in just the beginning of 2020, I was coming back from France. And Barbara J. Beckley is my executive producer. She is the wizard behind the curtain. Okay. She's the person, the commercials, the things, everything keeps me on track. Thank you, Barbara, for this. So Barbara J. Beckley, I was sitting on the runway in Charles de Gaulle Airport, waiting to come back in the United States. There was problem with technical problems. Literally the door of the plane was about ready to open up. And because I had flight experience, the pilot let me help and things like this. But I'm sitting in the airport. We had a 2-hour wait on the runway. And Barbara called me up and said, "Hey, Mr. B." She called me Mr. B. "Hey, Mr. B, I got an idea. Would you like to do a workshop?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, no problem. Let me think about it." In fact, at that point, I was like, "Let me think about it." She was like, "Okay." And so I'm still sitting on the plane. Yes, my plane literally said Star Wars on it. That's how awesome this whole moment was. I'm sitting on a plane called Star Wars on the fuselage, and for 2 hours, and then we finally took off. So it was a total 11-hour flight. I landed in O'Hare Airport, and you turn your phone off when you're on the plane. Now, we landed at O'Hare. The pilot told us to go ahead, turn back on your cell phone. I turned my cell phone on, and literally 10 seconds later, the phone rings. Guess who it was? Barbara J. Beckley saying, "Hey, Mr. B, did you think about it?" And I said, "Barbara, I'm still on the plane." I mean, nothing's changed. I'm still on the plane. But from that started Gem Hunter Stories. From that, a whole thing started this show that you see each week. And in the beginning, I didn't know not so much what to say, but just how to put it together in a different way than all the other shows that you see out there that talks about gemstones and precious metals. There's a billion of them. Oh my God, there's so many. And I learned from them too, but I wanted to do something different. I wanted to talk about the story. So again, thank you for your time. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your comments, good and bad. Because sometimes people say to me, "Hey, Barry, I didn't get it this week," or what it. So thank you for pushing me as a teacher. It's really important to reflect. And we'll talk about reflection later on, but it's important to reflect on what you're saying, how your story is not only put together, but more importantly, how it resonates with the people who listen to your story. So thank you for your comments. Please keep it up. Please subscribe. Please continue your comments and just your thoughts about gemstones. So let's get into it. This is the diamond. This is what a diamond looks like before it's cut. When you find it in the ground, this is what a diamond looks like. And if diamonds are never found in really nice places, they're not found it's not like oranges where you have these beautiful orange groves. Diamonds are found in mines that are anywhere from 90 to 100, 200 miles in the earth. This is actually the Mir diamond, which Mir mine, MIR, the Mir mine in Russia, which is a closed mine, but it was one of the deepest holes in the world. This is where diamonds come from. And when you look at a diamond, the person who is cutting the diamond, a diamantaire, has to look at what it is. They see the basic concept of what it is. They see this raw or rough diamond, and they have to imagine in their mind what they see that diamond becoming. And you see out of that one diamond, that one stone, you see he has at least, I see 17. He had 17 different gemstones that would come out of that diamond. So when he or she is cutting that diamond, they have to imagine what it can become. And there's a lot of similarities. When you study gemology, the amazing thing to me is how many similarities there are to gemstones and people. So this is, as a teacher, that resonated with me because that's what happens in my classroom. I have a room full of kids, or on Zoom, I have 5 or 6, 7 kids there, different age groups, different way of looking at these boys and girls, things like this. And my job as a teacher is to see the potential of each one of my students. And that's what a person does when they're cutting a diamond or any gemstone, whether it be a diamantaire, someone who cuts gemstones, diamonds, or a lapidary, someone who cuts other types of gemstones. And so they cut it, they have to draw it out, they have to imagine where it's going to be. And when they see that, if their dream comes where it's supposed to be, this is what happens. This is what becomes of that basic diamond that started just looking like nothing. Nothing. And when we buy a diamond, when you buy this diamond, this is the Millennium Diamond. I forgot, have something like $40 million. When you buy this diamond, what you're buying is what we call in the industry light performance. How is a diamond manifesting, interacting with the light? And it's called light performance. Light performance refers to how a gemstone interacts with the light, how it affects the overall appearance. So when you spend money, those of you who are in the market of buying diamonds, those of you who have bought diamonds, what you're looking at is how that diamond shines. What is the brilliance? How is that diamond capturing the light? That's what's called, if I'm appraising a diamond or I'm selling a diamond, the value of that diamond is based on the light performance. And then the light performance basically is, as a gemologist, what I'm doing is evaluating how the gemstone reflects, refracts, and disperses the light, which ultimately determines its brilliant, fire, sparkle. Of course, when you go to a jewelry store, they're not telling you all that, but all in the background, this is all the things that's happening. This is what the diamantaire has to consider when he or she is creating a diamond. The light performance, what's going to happen at the end of this. And so start thinking about analogies in your mind of how that relates to whatever you do, or the things that we consider art or music, how does it refract, reflect, and disperse the light? So when you have terms like brilliance, fire, sparkle, that's what you're talking about. Ladies, when you see that diamond from across the room, or you see Elizabeth Taylor's exquisite jewelry collection, the reason why you go is because of those 3 words: brilliance, fire, and sparkle. Remember that woman a long time ago, literally like season 1, year 1, I was telling you about the first diamond bracelet that I ever sold to someone. The woman literally stood there in that room and looked at her arm for the rest of the night. And I was there for a good 2-3 hours after that. She did not leave that room. She looked at her arm and just all the different ways that diamond tennis bracelet was capturing the light. So when you spend money on an exquisite gemstone, what you're buying, an exquisite diamond, what you're buying is the brilliance, the fire, and the sparkle. So what we're going to talk about is how does that relate to you? How does that relate to who you are and the way you manifest and interact with the world? So again, a diamantaire. A diamantaire is and I've always loved the way that sounds, diamantaire. A diamantaire is an expert diamond cutter. It's either expert diamond cutter or someone who is so high up in the diamond industry that it is a rank of honor to be a diamantaire. This is someone who has spent his or her life figuring out what is the best way to manifest that light. What is that literally when you wear a diamond, and ladies, you know what I'm talking about. Guys, you know what I'm talking about. When you're across the room and there could just be a little light in the room, and that woman's ring or necklace or earring just seems to capture the light. That's what a diamantaire does. They specialize in that. So when you see this diamond, that is someone who, from when it was just a rough diamond, saw the potential of what this diamond can be. These are the different types of manifestations that the people who have cut, the person or the team of people who have cut the diamond, saw the manifestation of this, saw how this diamond could capture the light. Look at this. I mean, this is just spectacular. And so you're not only talking about a red diamond, you're not even talking about just something that is extremely rare. Red diamonds are extremely rare. Maybe remember way back, I told you that red diamonds are the most rarest gemstone. If you have a red diamond, a natural red diamond, yeah, you're talking millions and millions of dollars because of how they're produced, of how they come about. Very, very rare. It's called the heat and the pressure that's required for a diamond is exquisite, and then to make a red diamond is on a whole nother level. It's actually called plastic deformation. The heat and pressure has affected the diamond so much on a molecular level that it bends it where it becomes red or pink. That's what you're looking at. So that diamantaire has to take something that's so rare in nature and make it better, manifest everything it can be. And of course, you're talking about diamonds, so there's no oops. There's no oops in that. It is what it is. You have to see it, every step of it, before you even make the first cut. These are all examples of what a diamantaire saw before, the finished product of what they saw before they made the first cut. Light performance considers factors like cut, shape. Remember the 4 C's: cut, shape of a gemstone, the angles of the facets, and the quality of its polish. So these are all the things that have to come together. When you think of light performance, and I always think of the way a woman gets dressed. When a woman gets dressed, she understands it's the whole thing. You can have the coldest dress in the world, but if your shoes are not right, if your accessories are not right, it's not going to bring it together. It's not going to be. And ladies, you know, when everything is tight, your makeup, your hair, your nails, and you just walk out and voila, that's light performance. That's what you see when you see a diamond. And all these factors contribute on how a diamond handles and interacts with the light. And you have to see it. You have to see it before you make the cut. What is the potential of that stone? If you cut it and maybe decrease the weight, because weight is important, carat, but is decreasing the weight going to maximize the light performance? So light performance is always first and foremost in any diamond cutter, diamantaire's mind, how it's going to come together. Boom. This is an extremely beautiful and rare diamond. This is called the Venus, a 118.7 carat D flawless diamond. Look at it. And heart-shaped diamonds are not as popular as other cuts because of the challenges that you have to do dealing with just how narrow the stone is, what's the depth of the stone. So here is a beautiful, let's go back to, here is a 118.7 flawless D-colored, D meaning that is colorless diamond, flawless diamond, the Venus. So yeah, if you give somebody that, you absolutely love them. There's no question what it is, the Venus. This is total love, and it's a heart-shaped diamond. So what I want to do today is get you to understand that you have to be your own diamantaire. That's the thing that makes us better than gemstones, is because gemstones, I can teach you or show you or tell you about all the different ways gemstones are cut. But what I'm saying to you today, right now, if you haven't gotten in the last 3 years, that almost every process that I can explain to you from a gemmological point of view can be applied to you. Can be applied to you and applied to you in your light, and to increase, in this scenario, to increase your light performance, to increase the way you resonate in the world. So let's continue. You have to be your own diamantaire. So today's show is entitled Critical angle and how we interact with the light. What are we made out of? How do we stand? What is our height? What is our weight? What is our education level? Where do we? All these things, all these, how we grew up, our parents, all these things, the kind of food you eat, all these things that are factors that you see in gemstones can be extrapolated to you. So critical angle and how we interact with the light. And I want to give credit to what credit's due to my mentor, my Gemmological gunnery sergeant, Robert James, in the International School of Gemmology, because as you guys know, some of you know my history. I've gone to schools from Gemmological Association of Great Britain, Gemmological Institute of GIA, Gemmological Institute of America, and so I've been studying this for a long time. But it wasn't until I was looking at one of Robert's lectures, and if you want to be a gemologist, go to ISG. Literally, I know GIA. Everybody knows GIA, and a lot of people know, at least in Europe, and at least the rest of the world know Gemmological Association of Great Britain, or GEMA. Both excellent schools, but Robert takes gemology in a whole. He's graduate of both programs, and Robert is literally Yoda when it comes to gemology. Robert has forgotten more stuff about gemology than I'll ever know. To hear him is just sitting at the knee of the master. And I was literally, it was 2:00 in the morning here, just a couple of weeks ago. I was going over one of his classes on critical angle, and I was like, oh my God. Because the way he brought it, I knew what critical angle was. It was just numbers and things, but it wasn't until I started taking the class with him that I really understood it. So credit this class, and really a whole different way I want to take this show is because of what I've learned from ISG. So thank you so much, Robert and ISG. You've literally changed 20 years. You've made the last year or so I've been with you have taken gemology to another level. So thank you. Merci beaucoup. So let's continue. So here's a pink diamond. Obviously, very, very rare, very, very expensive. So what does light performance mean? How does someone get that? How does that come about? So one of the ways when I talked about brilliance, fire, and sparkle, those attributes depend on something called critical angle. And yes, I'm going to get into science, but I think I can explain it to you. I'm sure I can explain it to you in a way that you'll get it and you'll see it for yourself. Critical angle, write that down. Critical angle, two concepts that bring brilliance, fire, and sparkle. Critical angle and refractive index. Refractive index and critical angle. So let's talk about critical angle. Critical angle is the angle at which light traveling through a gemstone reaches the point where it can no longer escape. Think about that. Light coming through a diamond, coming through a gemstone, and it can no longer, once the light goes into the gemstone, something has to happen. So the critical angle is the point where when that light goes into it's a specific angle, which is different for each gemstone. When the light comes into that gemstone at the critical angle, the light can no longer escape. And it's reflected back internally. So the light, I'll just take this wine glass. The light comes into this wine glass, and if this was a closed system, it would stay within, just think of this wine. It stays within the gemstone. That's what the light does. It reflects back and forth in the gemstone. That's what critical angle is. Now, before we talk about critical angle, let's talk about speed of light, because what people don't really realize is that the gemstones that you have literally slow down the speed of light. When you wear a diamond, you're wearing a substance that literally slows down the speed of light. Now, some of you have forgotten your 7th and 8th grade, or really 9th grade science, so let me remind you. The speed of light, 299,792,458 meters per second. 1 million, I'm sorry, 1 billion kilometers per hour, 671 million miles per hour, and 168 miles per second. That is the speed of light. And what you have to understand, and this is where it really relates to you, the speed of light is a universal physical concept. It's a constant, which means, because I get people say, well, what does this relate to me? If you live in the universe, the speed of light relates to you. It's not a Republican thing. It's not a Democrat thing. It's not a gay thing, a straight thing, a male thing. It's a universe. If you lived on Jupiter, the content, the speed of light relates to you. Okay. People say, I'm only human. It doesn't matter if you're human or Venetian or Jupiter. It doesn't matter. The speed of light is a universal physical constant. So all forms of electromagnetic energy, your heat, your sound, everything. Remember the electromagnetic spectrum? In the middle is visible light. That's what you're seeing. What we're using, that's visible light. Everything, all forms, your X-rays, your radio waves, your microwaves, all travel relate to the speed of light. So, critical angle. So, and I know this looks complicated, but there's basically three things. This is the diamond. This is the cut section of a diamond. Critical angle, there's three things that happen. Let me do it the European way. There's three things that happen with critical angle. And I'll go over this again. Let me just show you why the picture's there. One is the light when it comes into the gemstone. If it comes into the gemstone at a critical angle, which for a diamond is like 24.2 degrees. If it comes at a critical angle, that means the light stays in it, and basically it just, for lack of a better word, coats the inside. It stays inside the diamond. That's option one. Option two is that if the light is greater than the critical angle, then it's called total reflection. That means it takes it and bounces. This is when it's greater. The red line is when it's greater than the critical angle. No light leakage. So it just stays and follow the red line. This is the critical angle. This cone represents the critical angle. This is, as long as you're you're in the critical angle, this blue line is the critical angle. If you're outside of that critical angle, the light stays in and bounces. It bounces from one place to another place, to eventually out of the table, out of the top of the stone. And then the third scenario is if it's less than the critical angle, meaning it's within the cone. If it goes inside the cone, it's less than the critical angle, then the light leaks out. The light leaks out, so therefore you decrease the light performance. Again, scenario one, light hits the gemstone at the critical angle. Scenario two, light is outside, it's greater than the critical angle, then that means the light bounces, it reflects. And then it's scenario three, the light hits the gemstone, is less, and then it refracts inside, and then it reflects on scenario three, which means some of the light goes out, decreasing the light performance. So Diamantaire's whole purpose is to create a scenario where if you have 100% light going into a gemstone, then that gemstone should be cut in a way where 100% of the light is coming back out through the top. That's why you pay millions of dollars for the Venus diamond, because the light performance of that stone is extremely high. You can see that stone. That's the ring when the woman is standing across the room and all she did was laugh and she touched her face and you can see that sparkle. That's a gemstone that has high light performance. And you pay a lot of money from that, because the Diamantaire has to figure out what is the exact angle of the light. Not some of the light, not 70% of the light, as much of the light as possible. The light comes in, it goes back out through the table, through the top of the gemstone. You've all seen diamonds it might be a big diamond, but it didn't have that sparkle, didn't have that brilliance. That's because either the light was inside of the stone, or more often there was light leakage. The angle was cut in such a way where you had maybe 70% of the light come to the top, and you was losing 30% to the side or the bottom. That's what happens now. And when you have the light that goes in and bounces back and forth till it comes to the top, that's called total internal reflection. Total internal reflection. That's when the light comes in, and then when the light comes out, I'll just use when the light comes into this glass, whatever, all this light, let's say this light is 100%. When this light goes in the glass, in a diamond, the light would bounce back and forth and come back out to the top of the glass. That is called total internal reflection, or TIF. This is why it takes sometimes years for a diamantaire to figure out what are the proper angles. And what's really amazing, they've been doing this for hundreds of years, even before they came out with computer programs that can figure that out. People who are in the trade and been in the trade for decades can just do it. The only diamond I ever cut was my ex-wife's diamond, and a guy named oh my God, I can't remember his name. Anthony. I can't remember his name, but he was Russian, and he taught me how to cut my ex-wife's diamond. It was a 1-carat diamond. I'm not saying it was, I did a fantastic job, but that's all he kept talking about, was how to put the facets together. Total internal reflection. That's where the brilliance and sparkle of gemstones come from. Understanding as much as that, increasing your TIF to increase the light performance. That's what you see when you see this diamond. You're seeing a high level of light performance because the light that's going in is being manifest on the other side. When you see it, that's what you're seeing. Total internal reflection. Now, same thing with this diamond. This is the millennial diamond. Okay, look at how even the light is all the way across. That's because the light is going in, reflecting back and forth, and coming back out through the table. If you had dark marks, you would have diamonds, you would have shadowing here. You would have dark marks there where the light did not come all the way through, or it leaked out. So total internal refraction, all right, is when you have the diamond. I think I messed up a little bit, but total internal reflection is when it's leaked. Refraction is when it stays again. Refraction. Okay, so let me just make sure. Total internal refraction is when I said it right. I did say it right. Total internal reflection is when the light stays in. Refraction is when it splits out, when you have light leakage. Thank you. So, and this is why telling a story is important, because you have to get it straight in your head. You have to get it straight in your head so you can see it and then share with others. All right. So total internal refraction equals light leakage. You have dark marks, and you see a lot in marquee cuts. You see that what's called the bow tie effect. Sometimes you look at a marquee, it has that black mark. That's because the way the cut diamond is cut, especially with a marquee cut, is too shallow, so the light will come through, and it has that bow tie, that dark mark. That's what the bow tie effect comes from. All right, so let's continue. So critical angle, so that's how the light comes in. Now, the critical angle is influenced by what we call the refractive index. The refractive index is the measure of how much the light slows down. Remember we talked about the speed of light being 186,000 miles per second. That miles per hour. That's what slows down. That's what refractive index is. And so how much of it slows down, and then how it enters the gemstone from another medium. So you have air. and I'm sorry, I don't have my gemstones here, but when you have air, the light is traveling through the air or in a vacuum, traveling through, it hits the surface of the gemstone. And when it hits the surface of the gemstone, it either bends or it stays straight. It bends or it stays straight. All right. So I just wanted to, I know we covered a lot right now. Let's take a quick commercial, take a deep breath, and we'll continue on the other side. All right, we're back. So, all right, and we get to the part where it all relates to you. I know it's a lot of science, and some of you guys are rolling your eye, but really, when you see how it relates to you, I think you'll really appreciate what I'm talking about. So, refractive index, how much measures how much the light slows down and bends as it goes from air to the material that it is, whatever the gemstone's made out of. So we talked about the different speeds of light. We already said that 180,000 miles per second. Okay, some of you drive that quick. So 186,000 miles per second. That is the speed of light. And when it hits the gemstone, whatever the material is, it slows it down. So the refractive index determines how much the light is either refracted or bent. Refraction is when we talked about all the colors of the rainbow are contained in white light. When you see white light behind me, that all within that or rainbow, all the colors of the rainbow are contained in white light. When you refract it, when you break up white light into its different wavelengths, you have the different colors. Remember what? Third grade, Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. That's refraction. That's what happens when you break up visible light. So let's continue. This is what happens. Isaac Newton was the person who came up with this using a prism. Using a prism and a beam of light, he figured out where colors came from, what happens to white light. What happens to sunlight? All light breaks up into different wavelengths. Let's continue. So this is what the refractive index of a diamond looks like. So you have the speed of light in a vacuum. Then you have the speed of light, and then these are the different angles. It's too complicated, but this is what the refractive index of a diamond is: 2.417 to 2.419. That's the critical angle. That's the that number is that critical angle that the light stays within. All right. That's what happened. Sorry, let me back up. Refractive index, that's the speed. That's the ratio of speed from the speed of light to what happens to that speed when it goes into a diamond. That's that number. And every gemstone has a refractive index. Every gemstone, there's like 4,000 different minerals or gemstones. It was about 250 that we actually use all the time or study. Each one has a refractive index, and it's a way of identifying a gemstone. As a gemologist, you identify, one of the major ways you identify what a gemstone is by using the refractive index. If I just took this is quartz, and if I put this on a reflectometer, the reflectometer will tell me that the refractive index of this is 1.544 to 1.553. And the reason why I say that is because citrine is quartz. This is not citrine, but it's quartz. So therefore, that is the identifying refractive index of this. And each gemstone, no matter what the color, the species has a specific refractive index. All right, let's continue on. Right, so each one here's I said citrine. Citrine is the birthstone for November. That so 1.54. This the other birthstone for November is topaz. Topaz is made up of something different. 1.609 to 1.6443. That's the refractive index, meaning those gemstones are made up of material that when light goes in it, it slows down the speed of light. That's the ratio of how much it slows down the speed of light. So here is a little large. You can see you got garnet, you got ruby, you got all the different emeralds. 1.56. Look at the difference between topaz and emerald. Difference between emerald and garnet. And if you've seen these gemstones, you know that emerald doesn't have that brilliance that a garnet does or that a ruby does. Ruby, garnet, emerald, that's why the light kind of stays inside an emerald, which is the reason why the Incas thought that their gods lived into an emerald, because the light is within. The light stays within more, so it has that it has that glowing kind of resonance as for luminance. So luminescence. So let's continue on. So here's your diamond. Here's your diamond. Diamond is the carbon, is the chemical composition. That's what made a diamond's made out of. Diamond is the only gemstone made out of one type of material. This is the RI, 2.4117, 2.419. As a gemologist, you got to know those things. The hardness is a 10. And what the RI of a diamond is really high, much higher than any of. That's why diamonds are diamonds. That's why diamonds are so highly valued, because what they do with the light in comparison to rubies and emeralds and sapphires. Of course, all three of those gemstones are highly valued, but they do something different with the light. So here's citrine. This is citrine. Citrine made out of silicon dioxide, 1.44, 1.453. When you put it on a refractometer, that's what the reading. If that's what reading is, that's what it is. That there's other tests that you make, but that's what the refractometer will tell you what it is, because it cannot be anything else. It's an identifying factor. And these are the places to get. So, and then of course, 90% of all the citrine, probably even higher than that you've ever seen in your life, is actually heat treated amethyst. So how would I, as a gemologist, know the difference? Is because when I put it on a refractometer, which measure the RI, I will see those numbers. And even though it might be a different color, I would know that it's quartz. And I would, if it's a yellowish green variety, it's citrine. If it's a purple variety, it's amethyst. And I would know that from those numbers, how it interacts with the light. Here's topaz. Okay, here's topaz. Different chemical composition. Totally different. 1.6909, 1.643. Hardness is much harder than topaz. Citrine. Citrine's a 7. Topaz is an 8. Okay, topaz comes in. Citrine pretty much comes from has one color, or a range of colors, limited. Greenish, yellowish green color, where topaz has a variety of different colors. Your pinks, your blues, your yellows, your red. But no matter what the color is, because of the species, because of what it is and what it's made out of, it has a specific way it interacts with the light. This is imperial topaz, which I just love the name of it. This is imperial, very rare, highly prized, because of the way what it does with the light and the color of it. So critical angle, that light performance is depending on critical angle and the reflective index. And the refractive index is dependent on the RI. The critical angle is dependent on the refractive index, meaning that the light is traveling through. There's something that the light does once it gets into stone, and depending on what the stone is made out of, dictates whether that light goes straight or whether it bends. How does this relate to you? These are so birefringence. When you see birefringence, what that means is, does the light go straight or does it bend? You can see diamond straight, CZ straight, Demontoid, straight. This is the difference. Whereas you can see Moissanite actually has a higher reflective index, meaning what it does with the light is even higher than a diamond. That's why a lot of your rappers and these movie stars, they're not really wearing diamonds, they're wearing Moissanite. Because Moissanite, unless you know what you're looking at, you might think that's a diamond. It's a much cheaper, much less expensive way to wear something that gives you that bling bling without that bling bling money. Okay, so Moissanite, that's the difference, and you see the different range. So let's continue. So the key thing I want you to get, and this is where we're getting into, it relates to you. What is the gemstone made out of? What is it? What is it made out of? How? And that dictates how it interacts with the light. So now, how does it relate to you? How does all this stuff, how does it relate to you? What is the story? And I started thinking about this really a couple of days ago. Those of you who watch my Facebook post know that I was raking leaves, and I was out there raking leaves. I live literally in the city hall of the town I live in, and the guy who is the facilities manager of the area is named Alan. Alan, I love Alan because Alan, first of all, he's just a great guy. But Alan was the first person to really teach me petanque. I was here in LA. I just went to the Bulodrome where petanque is played, and I was throwing the ball all kinds of crazy ways. And Alan just looked at me like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm playing petanque. I had read about it and stuff, but I thought, he was like, no, monsieur, no, that's not how you do it. So I saw Alan out there raking, and the yard is pretty, the field in front of the city hall is pretty big. So I saw him, and I said, let me go say, I hadn't played petanque with him this year because he's been working hard. So I just said, let me help him out. So I went out there and I decided that I was going to help him rake the leaves. And you know how you go, I was telling Charlie last night, you know how you volunteer to help somebody and you thinking in the back of your head, they're going to say, oh, no, I'll do it. No, Alan didn't do that. Alan was just like, okay. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't sign up for the whole thing. So he gave me the rake and I started raking. And I hadn't raked a lawn in years. When I was a kid, I raked, literally, we moved into our house in Queens when I was 10, 1970. And we had a really big house, and we had at least 3 trees in the front, 4 trees on the side. We had hedges, we had grass, and then we lived right across the street from a lot which had trees as well. And the way the wind would blow, all the trees in the neighborhood, all the leaves would come to my house. So from 10 to literally until I joined the Marine Corps at 17, I was the facilities manager of my house. My father, all the leaves came to my house. I remember when I was 13, I thought that the National Association for Leaves should be at my house because they were all there. And my father, I think by the time I was like 11, he taught me 11, 12. He taught me how to rake leaves. And by the time I was 12, 13, he was like, with the season of fall started, he just give me a rake and say, here you go. Let's get started. And I don't want to see any leaves on the ground. And at first I hated it, but at the while I started like getting into it. It was kind of like a Zen thing. It was fun. And I started designing how high I wanted the piles and what color leaves I was going to put. And I put the really yellow leaves here and the kind of yellow. It was just artwork for me. And I realized as I was raking that field that I was being reminded of something. I haven't raked leaves literally in 20 years, easy. And before that as a child. So as I was raking leaves, I started thinking to myself how I was remembering what my father taught me when I was 10. I'm 63 now. I remember it, and it just came to me, and I said, this is what light performance is. This is what happens with a gemstone. When you're using a gemstone, literally the light, the value comes from what happens to the light. So the light, my father teaching me how to rake leaves, how to cut grass, all those things that was inside of me came out. It came out. The things that I've done in my life came out at that moment. I didn't think about it. I didn't it just came. And that's how you can make the analogy to you. When some of you guys have been watching my Facebook and putting the food. So we talked about a diamantaire specializing in how to cut a diamond, how to maximize the light effect of a diamond. What do you think happens when you have someone who's a chocolatier? A chocolatier. And last Saturday, I had a brownie. Ladies and gentlemen, this brownie was just incroyable. I mean, just absolutely the most incredible piece of chocolate I've ever had in my life. I mean, I told a friend of mine the other day, if J-Lo came to me and someone said, Monsieur, you have a choice between J-Lo and this chocolate, I'd have to say, girl, you know you're my girl. I love J-Lo, but not today. It was like that. And I started thinking, that's what a chocolatier does. He or she does the same thing a diamantaire does. They take the material, cocoa beans. That's all chocolate is, cocoa beans, and how to maximize it, how to get the most flavor from that. So it's not so much light performance, it's taste performance. The same thing. This is called tartiflette. Tartiflette. And when I learned what it was, it's just basically potatoes, cheese, and bacon. But when it was presented to me, I was like, oh my God. First of all, I love the name, tartiflette. And all the guys at the Potomac was teasing me. You had tartiflette yesterday? Oh my God, what was it like? And it was just extraordinary. And those of you who have come to France and experienced French food, everything that I'm talking about with critical angle and reflective index is exactly what they do with food. Everything, every ingredient, every flavor, the temperature, you turn the temperature, the whole thing manifests into that taste that you put in your mouth. It's no different than when you look at a diamond and you see this beautiful diamond, how does it manifest the light? And that's when I say we are better than gemstones because we get a chance to decide how it's going to be cut. We decide how it's going to be put together. We decide going back to school, that's a facet. Deciding to lose weight, that's a facet. Learning, studying, practicing, doing whatever your art is, it's no different than a gemstone. None. The only difference is you're the material. You're the material. Your RI, your refractive index can change to whatever. Yes, we are all human beings. And if there was some number for us, that number, but basically that's one aspect of it. The critical angle. How does the light hit you? Does it stay inside? Think about those of you out there, and I'm talking to somebody. I know there's guarantee. So some of you know how to cook. Some of you who are excellent dancers, excellent whatever. You learned it. Your grandmother taught you. Your mother taught you. Your uncle taught you. You know how to fix a car. All these things, and you have to decide whether you're going to let that light stay inside of you, whether you're going to let some of it just, you kind of dabble with, like, do you dance? Well, I mean, your mother and father were championship dancers. And you're like, well, I dance every once in a while. I don't really do that much. Okay. What you're talking about is you're talking about partial reflection, where you're letting some of the light leak out, or you're not using it at all. Or you can decide to do total internal reflection, where the light bounces inside of you and it manifests that. So when that was cooked, that's what happens. That's what happens. When Catherine made that, she's not a professional chef, but her mother taught her how to make tartiflette. And that's what you see. And more importantly, that's what I tasted. This is eggs and bacon, ladies and gentlemen. Eggs and bacon. I've been eating eggs and bacon my whole entire life. And when it was presented to me in a bowl, I'm like, what is this? I mean, I knew I was down with the bacon, but I was just like, what is this? And the eggs look different. Oh my God. Oh my God. It was magnificent. It was magnificent. It was like whatever chicken made that egg, please put them in the Chicken Hall of Fame. Whatever pig died for that bacon, please. There should be a monument to them. Biscuit, the biscuit, it was just, it was when you eat French food, and we're going to have a whole show next week on it. I'm going to get hopefully my friend Alan Lloyd to come in and just talk about it because he's a foodie. I'm not a foodie, but to me, when I experience that, it's the same way that woman was looking at her diamond tennis bracelet, like, oh my God. And the purpose of this show is to show you to talk about how you can do those same techniques, those same concepts, those same way of looking at a gemstone is exactly how you can look at yourself. Exactly what you can do with yourself. You can recut, redesign, refacet. This is, you know what this is? This are on the left hand, upper left is a leek fondue. A leek fondue. And I was like, okay, I don't know, I'm eating that. And then the bottom is a pomme de terre, potatoes, just potatoes. And in the upper right are duck hearts. I knew it was a heart because I teach science. I'm like, man, that's a heart. But when I ate it, I was like, wow. Excuse me, wow. So that means that when it was cooked, she had to see it. She had to imagine the way it would all come together. How would the leek and the duck and the potatoes all come together into a taste that manifests a sound for me that just said, wow. Or my favorite word, voila. Think about how many different ways we can do that in our lives. Think about if you just change the way you see your world. More importantly, see your value. See the things that you do. I've told you many, many times, I got into speaking because of an insult. My ex-wife told me, God, you talk all the time. I'm so tired of you talking. What are you going to do with your talking? Jesus Christ, you're a fountain of useless information. What she was actually saying, of course, I didn't realize it then, was you got all this light inside of you. The critical angle, the way the light was inside of me, but it was inside of me. And I had to make the decision whether I was going to let that light be greater than my critical angle or less than my critical angle. And I've decided to make it greater than my critical angle. And that's what I do each and every week in front of all of you. So I hope that you got something out of today. Sorry, my light changed, but I hope you got something out of today. I hope you can really see why each week I'm so passionate about gemstones, because it's like I'm studying this stuff. This is the whole history of mankind revolves around gemstones and precious metal. And I think the reason it works like that is because of the relationship that we as people have to gemstones, because the same processes that take place with gemology are the same things that we can do for ourselves and who we are as people. So your homework assignment, as I always have to give you, your homework assignment is think about the things that's inside of you. Think about your things that your mother, your father, your uncle, your grandmother, somebody taught you in your life, and ask yourself, are you using those skills? Are you using the light of who you are, the knowledge? Light equals knowledge. That light, how does that light go through you? Is it inside of you? And what are you doing with that light? What is your light performance? So next week, we're going to continue this conversation about food. I'm going to have some foodies on there. So if you're a foodie, let's have a conversation about food. And I can just tell you how good it tastes. I don't know all the ingredients, but just hopefully the people I bring on will tell you about the taste and how they put it together, how they present it. But until next week, my name is Barry B. Mixon. I am a gemmological storyteller. And please, 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 please take the time in your life to discover the value of your own stories, of who you are and how you resonate with the world. So until next week, au revoir, Atatella, voila.
People always say that good things come in small packages. Well, that's not always true. Introducing the Millennium Sapphire, the largest cut blue sapphire in the world, 61,500 carats. And that's not even what makes it special. I can already see people making changes to their birthday wishes. Discover the value of your story.